Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to the Base God Live, also known as the Bass God Live. This program reflects the views of the individuals participating in the discussion and for entertainment purposes only. They do not reflect the views of Bad Bob Productions, its affiliates, or partners, and should not be considered official endorsements or legal advice of any kind. This channel is not recommended for children under the age of 13. Parental discretion is advised. Hello, everyone. I am Base God 14, and I am live after another small hiatus, I think, of about 2 weeks. It's been about 2 weeks, I think, since I did anything. So I know the algorithms are going to punish me. I saw that that Doomcock apparently has decided to resume doing some sort of a Wednesday night show. So, of course, my timing is perfect to try to come back and do some live streaming. So what have we got going for you today? So I've got basically three topics. We're going to be talking about Arizona Toy, the Arizona Toy Con Mesa Mega Show experience. I attended the Arizona Toy Con, and I attended it as a vendor. So I'm going to be talking about my experience. I'm going to give you a rundown of what the event was like for me, and I'm going to show you what it is that I actually sold, and we might even discuss what all those items actually sold for. And you can start telling me, hey, that was a good price, that was a terrible price, you ripped people off, you got ripped off, all that kind of stuff. So, going to be talking about my experience at the Arizona Toy Con. It's the first time I've exhibited at an event in a very long time. I do have experience exhibiting at all sorts of events, everything from San Diego Comic Con to Phoenix Comic Con to the first version of the Arizona Toy Con, if I recall correctly. Like, it was in a high school, and I exhibited there and sold a bunch of my collection. So I do have quite a bit of experience in it, but it's been a long time. And this has actually led to me basically, I had to get a tax license in order to exhibit at this show. So I'm basically now have a side business where I'm going to be selling elements of my collection, and I'm also looking to trade, and I'm basically going to have my own business. I'm just calling it Eric Stuff. So yeah. So anyway, I'll be talking about the Arizona Toy Con, the Mesa Mega Show experience. I'm also going to be reviewing the Arizona State Fair. I attended the Arizona State Fair on October 14th. This broadcast is happening on October 22nd. And I'm sorry, October 26th. I'm sorry. This is today. The broadcast is on October 26th. I attended the Arizona State Fair on October 14th. And I'm going to be talking about my experience and let you know what to expect if you're going to be going to the fair this weekend. Because this is going to be the last weekend coming up, which is so sad. October 30th is the day that the Arizona State Fair closes. So I'm going to be talking about my experience at the fair. And then I'm introducing a new segment. I am calling this Hold or Sell. And I'm going to be I'm going to be explaining it more when I actually get to that segment. I'm going to leave that for last. But I've got all sorts of stuff I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show you all the stuff I did not sell at the Arizona Toy Con. I'm going to show you a bunch of items that I decided not to even bring to the Arizona Toy Con because I'm holding them right now. As of right now, I'm holding them. But here's the thing. March, the same folks that run the Arizona Toy Con, they're going to be having a show in Tucson, Arizona. So I've got lots of time before that show. And I'm also looking at another show around January that I'm not going to talk about yet until I figure out if I'm actually going. But I have made inquiries about going to the Tucson toy show, the Tucson Toy Con. I don't know exactly what they're calling it. So I want to get prepared for it. And what I'm going to be trying to do is get some feedback as far as the item, what you think my items are worth and whether I should be keeping them or I should be selling them. And again, I'm going to explain a little bit more about the premise of that show when I get to that segment. But I'm going to go ahead and start with the Arizona State Fair. So I'm going to do a review of the Arizona State Fair. It's not going to be super long or anything like that. But the first thing I want to do is go ahead and show you the website, so you can kind of see what you need to do if you are planning on attending the Arizona State Fair this year. Which again, you don't have very much time. As of today, it's October 26th. The event ends on October 30th. So hopefully you can all see everything that's going on there. So Arizona State Fair, September 23rd to October 30th. Again, I attended on October 14th. So my experience might be a little bit different than yours. The thing that I really wanted to show folks, first of all, it costs $15 to get in. You can pay online. That's what I did. But you can also pay at the door. As far as I know, there is not a difference in fee. But I wanted to get the deal. I think it's under the deals and promotions. So the day that I went was a Friday. So every Friday, they call it Foodie Friday, and they have $3 food items. This starts at noon and it goes until 6 p.m. And basically, every single food vendor has these $3 food samples. And I absolutely, absolutely love this. I love fair food. To me, the fair is all about the food. Growing up as a kid, my dad used to take me to the Arizona State Fair, and I remember I was always waiting for the fry bread. I used to get the fry bread with the powdered sugar and the honey, and I looked forward to it all year long to get that Indian fry bread. Ironically, I didn't have any Indian fry bread this year, but part of the reason is because I went to Foodie Friday, and there were so many other things for me to eat. And you may ask, well, Eric, what kind of things did they have for you to eat? Well, they had things like this. And I've been on a diet. I've actually lost basically over 30 pounds on this diet. It's been a struggle. But this is the first thing I ate when I went to Foodie Friday. So what do we have here? We've got a barbecue brisket sandwich. You can kind of see that on your left. In the middle, you can see I got some nachos. Chips are definitely not allowed on my diet. So I got some nachos. You can see on the right pizza, and that's a full slice of pizza. A lot of the places were doing half slices, but I found a place that was doing a full slice of pizza for $3. And it was definitely good pizza. Although I will tell you, pizza is my favorite food. It's the most difficult thing for me to avoid on my diet. So being able to have this cheat day and being able to eat pizza was so awesome. And then the donut, you can't really see the scale. It's a Texas donut. It's half of a Texas donut. So you ask yourself, what is a Texas donut if you don't know? It's a giant donut, okay? It's like 3 times the size of a normal donut. And just the half donut was pretty huge. I wish I had put something in the picture so you could see it. But that was what I ate when I first got there. The drink is lemonade. They had lemonade for $3 as well. But this is really just the tip of the iceberg. I wish I had taken more pictures, but this was my opportunity where I could take a picture. I even put it on my Instagram. By the way, I do have an Instagram under BaseGod14 if you want to check it out. So I did post the pictures on there as well. But that was the food for Foodie Friday. I'm trying to think what else I had. I remember I did have the fried Twinkie. I had the fried Twinkie. You got to have the fried Twinkie. And again, that was $3, Foodie Friday. And there's one Foodie Friday left. So I had a Twinkie. Of course, I had a hot dog. What else did I have? I think under the foodie deal. I can't remember. The Twinkie was a big deal for me. I remember that. I had some ice cream. So, and that was $3. So every single place has $3 items, and there's actually a surprising amount of variety. And I would really recommend this brisket sandwich. It's just that one place that has it. The brisket was really good. It was a really good sandwich. And again, only $3 because one of the issues when you go to the fair, any fair, it's not just Arizona, I'm sure, it's expensive, especially the food. And if you're a foodie, like I am, like if you're a food lover and you go to the fair for food, like I didn't go on any rides. I went with my kids, so I let my kids play the games. All I did basically was I did more, and I will show you in a second, but I ate, and especially since like I said, I've been on a diet and this was a cheat day. Well, what else did we do? We also went to the All Indian Rodeo. Unfortunately, this is the only picture I took. I got so kind of into the rodeo, but this is actually really good at the fair itself. You can actually see Veterans Memorial Coliseum, which for folks that grew up in Arizona, we remember the days when the Phoenix Suns actually played at Veterans Memorial Coliseum. It's also quite famous because Elvis actually performed there, and I think it was one of his last performances. It was not his last performance, but it was one of his last performances. I think his last tour, he did perform at Veterans Memorial Coliseum. So it's very historic, and I always like the design of Veterans Memorial Coliseum. I wish they would refurbish it. It's still functional. Normally during the state fair, they have concerts in there, but they didn't have concerts this year because they're still. My understanding was they're still dealing with some aftermath of COVID, and the concert, the music industry hasn't quite recovered yet, where they could have concerts. Supposedly they'll have them next year. I've seen some great concerts at the Arizona State Fair. Like I've seen Megadeth, I've seen Weird Al. I think there's a couple others. Those are the two that come to mind right away. But they didn't have that this year. But you can see Veterans Memorial Coliseum in the background, and of course you can see like the giant Ferris wheel. And this is what they call the grandstand. That's where we were way high up, and this is where they had the All Indian Rodeo. And it's really funny because I grew up in Arizona, and I don't remember ever going to a rodeo before. And I did take my kids. My brother was there. It was a family affair, and we had a good time. And the rodeo was a lot of fun, and it was called the All Indian Rodeo. I do believe now they've got something else going in that grandstand area. It might be the Monster Truck Show. Actually, I could probably look real quick. Let's see here. If I go back to the website, we'll take down the Foodie Friday and we'll look at probably events is what I would think. So let's see what we got here. Fun, fair map, rides. Am I just not seeing this? Livestock entries. By the way, we did actually check out the livestock. And when we were there, the kids were doing their competition with the pigs, which I thought was really funny because I told my kids, hey, somebody's going to have the prize pig. And it was, it was actually like happening when we were walking in. Why am I not seeing this? Fair map, cabanas, community stages. By the way, the community stages, I'll just click on that real quick. Because again, they didn't have like the actual concerts like they've done in the past. So what they did have was a lot of different like tribute bands. And like when we were there, it was a tribute to Prince, or the artist formerly known as Prince. I don't know what he was calling himself before he passed, but it was pretty good. They were pretty good. We did listen to a little bit of them. Why can't I find the events one? It's like all of a sudden it's just like, okay, well, I can't find it. My apologies. I'm not going to just keep looking for it. But I believe it was something like a truck show or something like that. I know they've done that in the past. As far as the other events that I saw, we did go in the Coliseum, and every year in the Coliseum, basically they have like these side rooms where they have all like the arts and crafts. And this is the only thing I took a picture of. I just thought it was a really interesting sculpture. And because I'm going to be talking about a lot of G.I. Joe, this sculpture totally reminded me of G.I. Joe. It totally reminded me of a plane in G.I. Joe. And that's one of the reasons that I took this picture. I wish I had taken some more because there was a lot of good art in the Coliseum, and it was fun. It was really cool to see that kind of stuff. And then the highlight, I would say, of the Arizona State Fair for me this year was definitely the Flying Royals, which again, I don't know if they're still performing, if you can see them with this last weekend. But the Flying Royals is a trapeze act, and I have not seen a trapeze act probably since I was a little kid. I mean, Barnum and Bailey's is gone, and I hadn't been to Barnum and Bailey's, I think, in my entire adult life. I do remember them having some sort of a trapeze act at Circus Circus. I don't know if they still do. I'm talking about Circus Circus in Las Vegas. I remember seeing that as a kid, but ever since I've been a kid, I haven't really seen a trapeze act. And the Flying Royals had a trapeze act. If you go on my Instagram, I actually have some footage, like actual video footage. But you can see the setup here. This is an action shot. You can actually see people from the Flying Royals flying through the air. It was really cool. I mean, and they do have a net, but it was a really cool show. And they had some other elements to it. They had a gentleman that was he was in sort of like I would call like a big giant hula hoop, and he was rolling around in it and did some very impressive stuff. It was very, very cool. And they also had this lady here who was also using like hula hoops. You can't really see the hula hoop in this picture, but she was like twirling them, and she was really good. and she did a really good job. She reminded me a lot of a rhythmic gymnast. If you're familiar with rhythmic gymnastics as opposed to artistic gymnastics, like artistic gymnastics is usually, I think, what people think of with the Olympics, but they also do have rhythmic gymnastics, and she reminded me of that. I suspect highly that's what she is actually, but she was using that sort of all these hula hoops. You can kind of see the hula hoops on the ground in this picture. And then, of course, I had to get a picture with them. So you can see the whole cast here, and you can see the very attractive women. You can see obviously it's a better picture of the woman you just saw that was doing the hula hoops, but you can also see the two female trapeze artists. The guy in the white shirt, he is the one that was like sort of that big giant hoop rolling around in it. Very impressive. And then the other guy that's kind of like, I guess, like in the orange pants, he did like a big, huge dive off of the top of this rig here. So if you look at the upper left corner, as you're looking at it to the left, there's this little platform up here, and it's way up high. So it's higher even than where the trapeze artists are. It's way up there. And that you can see there's this mat on the bottom. What it is it's a deflated um, a deflated mat, I guess. So the idea is he jumped from the top of this rig here, and he jumped onto the platform once it was inflated, of course. And that's the gentleman here in this picture that you can see. He's got, like I said, kind of looks like orange pants. And the little boy was very cute. It was obvious. I believe the woman standing behind him is his mom, and he was really cute. He was the sort of like the MC, and obviously them being a trapeze artist, they probably make it a family affair, and they all travel together. And it was just a very nice show. So I kept telling everybody, I told my brother, I told my kids, the Flying Royals really made the Arizona State Fair admission price, worth it. Just that alone, I would say. But of course, again, I was there really for the food more than anything else. But that was just such a treat to see that. It was just a really great show. I can't say enough good things. And again, if you go onto my Instagram, it's also under BaseGod14. You will be able to see some actual video footage of that show. I did take some video. Unfortunately, I don't have a great phone, so the quality is not great, but you get an idea. And for those of you that may have experienced, trapeze artists, gone to Barnum and Bailey's, gone to Circus, something like that as a kid, it'll bring back a lot of memories. And it feels like, for kids today, it's really hard for them to see something like that, especially because Barnum and Bailey's isn't around anymore and that kind of stuff. So I was really happy that my kids got to see that, and they were impressed with it. I'm sure they were. And it was a good show, like I said, and it wasn't just trapeze, they had other elements to it. So overall, I just want to say that it was a great experience. I think they did a great job at the Arizona State Fair this year. And hopefully, if you're able to make it before they close, again, October 30th, that's a Sunday, that's the last day, the day before Halloween, you'll enjoy it as well. Like I said, I'm not sure if you can get the same events. I know the rodeo, I think, is over. Probably have something else going on in the grandstands. And I'm not sure if the Flying Royals are still there, but there's so much other stuff. Like we saw some, guys are doing comedy. They have little dance groups. They have all these different stages. I think there's like 5 different stages where they have different little performances going on. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And again, Foodie Friday, definitely do Foodie Friday, because if you want to pig out, it can get expensive at the fair. But if you do the Foodie Friday, you get to sample so much more food at a much more reasonable price. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the Arizona ToyCon Mesa Mega Show experience. And by experience, I mean my experience, my personal experience. That's not the name of the actual event. It's actually just called the Arizona ToyCon Mesa Mega Show. And let me go ahead and show my screen again here. I do have the information for the show itself for people that are interested, because you may want to attend future events and you may want to exhibit there. So you can see this is their logo. I think it's a pretty good logo. They have all these different characters on it, everything from Superman to Darth Vader. Nice little bookends there, right? They got Cobra Commander, Ghostbusters, He-Man, Mario, Pokemon, Voltron, Teenage Mutant Turtles, Wolverine. The funny thing is, I'm thinking in my mind, was all this stuff well represented at the Arizona Toy Con? And they have Mickey here. Um, you know, there was a lot of Funkos. I'm just gonna say that there was a lot of Funkos. So probably in Funko form, all this stuff was represented. What was represented? Megatron's there in the back. As far as stuff that I brought, I did bring 80s GI Joe. I did bring Transformers. I'm going to show you that stuff. I did bring some Star Wars. I did see some Voltron stuff. I do remember seeing some Voltron stuff. I remember people asking for Nintendo stuff, but we didn't bring in our Nintendo stuff because we're keeping it. There were people looking for My Little Pony, and we did have a little bit of My Little Pony. That was from my daughter. So, and Teenage Mutant Turtles, I can't remember if that was really well represented. I remember one table that had a lot of vintage Teenage Mutant Turtles, and it was, as far as I could tell, it was in the package too. So that event was held at the Mesa Convention Center in Mesa, Arizona. It was from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., but they had an early bird, like a VIP entry at 9 o'clock. So that was for like the serious collectors where they got in an hour early. Admission was only $10. And if you wanted to do the VIP, which they call the early bird, it was $20, so double the price for that extra hour. And kids 10 and under were free, which is really nice. I like it when events do that because I remember when I had small children, and that's always a huge help if they can get in. But they are doing another show on Sunday, March 5th, 2023. I am hoping to go to it because I did have, I think, a very good experience. So the Tucson Toy Show, it says, our 34th annual show, the largest toy show in the West, over 500 tables, all toys represented, vintage to modern. Admission again is $10 with 8 a.m. early bird available for $20. Kids 10 and under are free. That's a limit of 2 per general admission, 1 child for early bird if you want to do the early bird. And their hours are 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So it's a longer show. Well, not long. Well, it's not longer. It's just earlier, right? It's an earlier show because the Mesa show closed at 4, went from 10 to 4. This one goes from 9 to 3, unless you're doing the early bird where you start at 8. But again, I am definitely hoping to go to this show for sure. Hey, I got some comments here. Mike Fisher, what do you got to say here? It's based on what the vendors brought. Okay, gotcha, Mike. Gotcha. It says Joe's and Transformers, Star Wars were all well represented. I agree with you, Mike. I do think Joe's and Transformers, Star Wars were all well represented, and that's what I had. I mean, it wasn't all I had at my table, but Mike, that's what I had. Joe's and Transformers. I'm actually going to show some of the stuff that I sold in a second here. And you said somewhat TMNT. I do remember at least one vendor that had a really good representation of like vintage Teenage Mutant Turtles. I know there's a lot of that new stuff, the reaction stuff. I don't get into the reaction stuff. So, if anybody wants to know why, I'll mention it, but I won't go down that path. I'll try to keep everything positive here. And Mike says, this is the only show offered in the East Valley. It is worth mentioning that there was another show going on at the Shriner Hall in Phoenix I was aware of. So that was a little bit strange to me. I'm not going to get into that as far as I'm not trying to create any drama or anything, but that was a little strange to me that there was another show going on the same day. There were people that talked to me that said that they were actually going to go to that second show after the Arizona Toy Con. Because I was talking to a lot of people. I was really engaging with people. I was asking them, hey, what do you collect? What are you into? And the funny thing is, asking people what they collect, a lot of people were just like everything, or, basically whatever I feel like getting. I did get a few people that were hardcore GI Joe. I did get a couple. I got like one person that was Star Trek. I was really kind of disappointed that it doesn't seem like there was a lot of Star Trek collectors there. And Mike, if you want to correct me or anybody else, just let me know. But it didn't seem like Star Trek was that well represented in any regard. Although there was at least one guy that had decent amount of Star Trek. But a lot of people were just telling me like they collect all sorts of stuff. And Mike says that he agrees. Okay, cool, Mike. Yeah. I didn't think Star Trek was well represented. And I am a Trekkie. I am a Trekkie. In fact, I'm going to show you some of the stuff I didn't sell. And I think I got the pictures for it. Actually, I'm not sure if I had them, but there's some stuff that didn't sell that I'm definitely going to talk about. Mike also mentioned that Shriners is too small. I haven't been at the Shriners Convention Center in a very long time. I went there years and years ago when they used to do this all-night gaming thing, and it was an annual event. I don't know if they still do it, and it was a really surreal experience because I'd never been to a 24-hour video gaming thing. Like, I've been to Phoenix Comic-Con where they had the 24-hour table gaming. They used to have it in the Hyatt. So I've been to that, and that's very low key, but like the Shriners used to sponsor this event or host this event that was like this all night gaming thing, and guys would bring their whole rigs of their computers, and people would be sleeping under the tables. And I was filming at that event. I was actually filming at that event for one of the not the organizers, but one of the participants of the event. I was filming for him, and I always thought that was just so crazy. Everybody sleeping like under tables and all that kind of stuff. It was definitely an interesting vibe. So it's been a long time though, so I don't remember. Shriners is certainly not as big as Mesa Convention Center. And I do have to say, I really like the venue. Mesa Convention Center used to host the Phoenix Comic-Con for years. It hosted Game On Expo originally as well. It still hosts TaioCon, big anime convention. And it seems like they've done some renovations to the Mesa Convention Center. And I've always liked that venue just because I feel like that venue has a good combination of decent space while at the same time it remains intimate. You know what I mean? It's not like huge, like, the Phoenix Convention Center, so it's like, it's not overwhelming, especially if you like something that's a little bit more intimate, that kind of a thing. And it seemed like this event was well attended. And Mike also mentions, of course, Star Trek has their own conventions. And yes, in fact, I wanted to do a review of the event formerly known as Star Trek Vegas because I was there in August. So I've been doing a lot of conventions lately because I did in August, I did both the event formerly known as Star Trek Vegas because they lost their license. So it's not an official Star Trek convention. They called it like the 46-year mission or something like that. And then I also went to Game On Expo. I've gone to Game On Expo every year, including the off year when they had a drive-in. I've talked to the organizer, John. I've mentioned that to him that, yeah, we were at the drive-in too. We've gone to every single Game On Expo. We love that event. Love that event. And I know the folks that do the Arizona Toy Con are very much involved with Game On Expo as well. And of course, they're also involved with Collectors, the Arizona Collectors, or the Collectors Marketplace, which is in Phoenix. So they're very much involved with that. Mike says the only complaint I have is the Cultural Center is located 2 blocks away. That confused me when I showed up there and didn't see any toys. Yeah, you're talking about like the Performing Arts Center, I assume, Mike. And the Performing Arts Center is a totally different campus. So it's, that place is like right off of Main Street, whereas the Convention Center is actually more towards University, right? So it's more towards Center and University. So yeah, it can get confusing if you're not familiar with Mesa, but I'm very familiar with Mesa. I was actually born in Mesa. So, I know the difference between like the Performing Arts Center and the Convention Center. But I think for a lot of people that aren't familiar with Mesa, it can get really confusing. It absolutely can, because that's basically all Mesa has in a lot of ways is those two things, because they call Mesa like a bedroom community. It has a lot of people, has a lot of space, has an airport. It has 2 airports now, one of which is like a real legitimate airport. Mesa Gateway is like a real airport now. But it doesn't have like a lot of attractions, right? It doesn't have a lot of hotels, and stuff like that. There's some resorts and things like that, but it doesn't have a lot of that. Certainly not downtown. Certainly not downtown Mesa is one of those places that really needs to be developed. And it's one of the few places I feel like in Arizona, in the Phoenix metro area, at least. I was going to say Arizona, but I mean like the Phoenix metro area, that really hasn't been developed that much. Like if you compare it to Tempe, there's no comparison. Tempe is just way like almost overdeveloped at this point. But Tempe has no other place to go. They have to go up because Tempe is a landlocked city. They have no other place to go. They're stuck. So I want to show everybody my my table. This was my table setup that I had. I was not in the main showroom. The main showroom is kind of like a separate building. I believe it's called Building A. I was in Building B. You can kind of see this door if you look over to the right of the screen, and you can see that pile of Funkos. I was talking about how Funkos was definitely well represented at this show. This is called the Palo Verde Room. A lot of people, like, you may have gone to a wedding here or something like that. That's what they usually use the Palo Verde Room for. I've been to weddings in the Palo Verde Room, but this was the second vendor hall. But I was in the hallway, and you can see how my chair is up against the wall. So I got like basically the cheapest table. I didn't know what to expect. What to expect. I haven't gone to a show like this in years, so I got the cheapest thing I could get. And this is my setup there. Now you can see we kind of set it up two halves. So essentially, like, my stuff is like on the right of as you look forward, it's on the right, and then my daughter's stuff is over here on the left. So you can see that she has more modern stuff, and you can see actually there's some Fisher Price stuff. Here's a different angle and a little bit closer. You can see kind of like how we divided stuff. So I got my stuff over here in the corner over to your right. And then my daughter had a bunch of her stuff over here. And then we had some stuff in the middle that's actually from my brother. My brother has Fisher Price stuff that actually I used to play with as well, because he let me play with it. It was a hand-me-down, but it was originally my brother's. So we're trying to sell these on behalf of my brother. I wasn't trying to claim them or anything like that and say that, hey, this is my stuff because I played with it after whatever, So we had the vintage Fisher Price. You can see we also had some, Lego and some other things. On the bottom here is my Star Trek. If you look at the bottom sort of middle, and you can kind of see this is my JJ Trek stuff that I was trying to get rid of. I have a ton of Playmate Star Trek, but I'm not really wanting to get rid of it yet. I hope to do a future segment of hold or sell and show you a bunch of my Star Trek Playmates collection, because I have a huge one, and see what you folks think. So anyway, this is what my setup was. I think it looked pretty good. We got a lot of attention. A lot of people were really looking at that Fisher Price castle. I'm telling you, they were really, really looking at that. And Mike says, I saw your table. I remember the AT-AT. That's the second thing that got the most attention probably from people, but the castle beat it as far as attention. People were really looking at that Fisher Price castle, but a lot of people were talking to me about the AT-AT. Oh, Mike, you were the guy who bought the Steel Brigade? My joke was you bought me. So if anybody doesn't know the story of Steel Brigade, which I don't know if I have a picture of my Steel Brigade figure. So if anybody doesn't know the story of Steel Brigade was a gimmick. Basically, G.I. Joe 80s had a lot of you could get, take proof of purchases, and you could do mail orders. And one of the gimmicks they had was you could be a Joe. And the Steel Brigade figure was this masked figure. So the idea was, whoever you are, you're the person underneath the mask. And it even came with like a little certificate type thing. I kind of feel like it's kind of like those Build-A-Bear birth certificate things that it came with something like that. It came with a patch, which I wonder if I still have those things somewhere. But yeah, so the Steel Brigade was a gimmick. And as far as I can tell, most kids were not as dumb as I was. It didn't fall for the gimmick, or maybe they just weren't as obsessed with G.I. Joe. Let's put it that way. Maybe they weren't just as obsessed with G.I. Joe as me, and had to get everything they possibly could. Because my understanding is they're very rare, and I think it's because most kids just did not fall for the gimmick, and I did, obviously. So yeah, Mike, if you bought that, thank you, because I think you gave me a pretty decent price. I would be curious, especially if folks see this on, even if they see this on the replay, because I am going to make I'm going to divide this broadcast up into clips. If you see a replay and you have some thoughts about the Steel Brigade figure, let me know, especially what you think about pricing and stuff like that. Obviously, I don't have one anymore, but I'd still be curious what people think about those Steel Brigade figures, because my research said they're very, very rare, and they go for a lot of money. Especially if you have everything, like if you have the patch and you have like the certificate and all that kind of stuff, the box, which is just a mailing box, that kind of stuff. So here's like another angle. I'm gonna go ahead and take the banner down so you can see this, but this is another angle of kind of like my stuff. And this was actually kind of near the end. So I'd already sold most of my G.I. Joe figures at this point. You can see Hawk actually on the bottom there. That was like my last G.I. Joe figure. And then you can see the Imperial vehicle here, which is called the INT4. I had to explain you can see it on top of the RoboForce box here, the RoboForce Max Steel telephone, which was my childhood telephone. I still have the box for it. It's not just the box; the phone is in there. But I had to explain to a lot of people what the heck this was. A lot of even like Star Wars collectors, people who told me they were Star Wars collectors, had no idea what the INT4 was. And there were all these different vehicles that Kenner made in the 80s that never appeared in Star Wars. I call them Star Wars inspired vehicles. I think that's the most honest term, because they were not in the movie. But if anybody is familiar with The Mandalorian, and this is what I was telling people at the show, if anybody is familiar with The Mandalorian, they actually had the troop transport in The Mandalorian, and the troop transport was one of these kind of vehicles. It was bigger. It wasn't a small vehicle like this one. Obviously, the idea was you could put multiple stormtroopers in it, or multiple figures of any kind, really. But it never appeared in Star Wars. But then they made it show up in The Mandalorian, which a lot of people like me took notice of that. But so who knows? This vehicle might actually appear in a later version of a Star Wars show on Disney Plus or something. But a lot of people were wondering, what the heck is that? And I think, people kind of be like, that's Star Wars, because I never saw it in Star Wars. And I do have some additional pictures of that you can see it a little bit better. I also had the Cobra hydrofoil. It was nearly complete. It was missing one torpedo. As I explained to the person that eventually purchased it, the torpedo, as I remember, it kind of like got the little tabs on it that kind of hold it in place. You can kind of see that here, because the torpedo that I had, you can kind of see at the bottom here, if you're looking at the bottom left below the big with a big gun, the big forward gun. These tabs kind of wore out, and I remember that the other torpedo kind of just fell off, and I have no idea what happened to that. But I had the cover for the engine, which, if anybody's familiar with this toy, the cover of the engine is just gets lost all the time, because it doesn't go on right, because you can't quite see it in this picture, but it's got like, these other, like, I guess they're supposed to be exhaust pipes, because there's the main ones in the back, and then there's these ones on the side, and this grill never goes on right, so the grill gets lost all the time. One thing you can't see about the pilot was he was broken, in terms of the rubber band had broken. But I kept telling people, because I know this, it's just a matter of time with these vintage Joes. The rubber band will deteriorate, and you are going to have to restore these toys. It's just the way it is. There's two kinds of 80s GI Joe figures, 3.5 inch. The ones where the rubber band has broke, and the ones where the rubber band will break, because they eventually just disintegrate. That's just a problem with them, which is one of the reasons, by the way, I'm not too big on over articulation. I actually do like the Kenner Star Wars kind of mold, and I feel like that's kind of better. And actually, when I show you what I acquired, that'll make more sense too. And you can see here I had all the missiles. So even though I was missing one of the torpedoes and all the missiles, somebody pointed out to me, and you can actually kind of see in this picture, that the spotlight didn't have the plastic on it. I didn't even remember that, but somebody pointed that out to me, was like, "Oh, does it have the plastic for the spotlight?" I'm like, "What?" And then I kind of remembered, because I played with this toy a lot. All these toys were very well loved. They were very, played with all the time. But somebody pointed that out to me. So it was missing the torpedo, and it was missing the little cover for the spotlight. But otherwise, this thing was complete. And I sold it. I sold the hydrofoil for $50. I'm curious what people think about that. If I got a good price for it, or if I got ripped off, or they think I ripped off the guy who bought it. But I got $50 for it, which I thought was that was also based on my personal research. What I tried to do was kind of find like the highest eBay prices, and then the lowest, and kind of average it, and try to be somewhat in the middle. That's how I kind of try to do my prices. But I'm very curious. Again, also, if you're in the replay, if you didn't see this live, comment and let me know what you think of my prices of what I got for these things. Another item that sold was my Metroplex. You can see he is not complete at all. I do have a feeling I'm going to find all the other pieces for him, which is kind of a shame, because I didn't even meet the guy who bought this. My daughter sold it while I was walking around. I didn't even have a chance to tell the person like, hey, give me your email, and if I find the rest of the pieces, I can mail you them for shipping or something like that. But I have a feeling I'm going to find the rest of his pieces. I didn't even try to transform him. I don't remember how to transform him, so I just sold him basically as is. And I went ahead and I got, let's see, for Metroplex, I got $40 for Metroplex. So curious what people think. Was that a good price? Bad price? What do you think? And the same person who bought Metroplex, my daughter told me, also bought Triptychon. And the Triptychon does not walk. I don't know if he's repairable, but I tried to put batteries in him and he was not walking. But I sold Triptychon, and my daughter again was the one who sold these, and she said she sold Metroplex and Triptychon to the same person. And we sold Triptychon for 35. Again, that was the price I came up with because he doesn't walk and based on what I found, but I'm curious what people think if that's a good price or not. And I'm talking about good price for the customer, and I'm talking about good price for me. I'm really curious what people think because I've got all this time till March, and I'm going to use it, and I'm going to try to build up my channel, and I'm going to keep showing stuff from my collection, and I'm going to keep asking and reaching out. What do you think of these prices? What do you think is a good price? And try to have the most competitive prices at the show I possibly can for the March show in Tucson. So again, that's Triptychon, and again, he sold for $35. He did sell with my Metroplex. And here we got a picture of some of the G.I. Joe figures that I brought. It's not a great picture, but you can see it. Here's another angle of some of the G.I. Joe figures that I brought. You can see, obviously, Hawk. I talked about Hawk earlier. He was the one that sold last, but you can see I have the Iron Grenadiers, Destro's Iron Grenadiers. I remember them in the comics, and I really liked them. One of them is undamaged, I guess. I mean, it's not that they're damaged. Again, that's one thing I want to make clear is like, if the rubber band breaks, it breaks. You know what I mean? It's just, you can't. It's going to break eventually. It's just a matter of time. You're as a collector, as a vendor, as whatever, you're eventually going to have to restore these things or just sell them as is, like I did. So I had one Grenadier that was the band was still there, and the other one wasn't. So I had the two Grenadiers. I was really kind of reluctant to sell them. I still have my Destro, by the way. I'm going to show that on Hold or Sell, my new segment. But I decided to go and sell them. I really like these. I remember the story arc in the comics, and I have the comics still when the Iron Grenadiers first appeared. And I always thought they were really cool. They both of them had all their accessories. They had the sword, the laser gun, and the Uzi. And I sold them both for $20. So I'm curious if anybody what people think about that. $20 for the Iron Grenadiers. And then I was trying to sell the Zartan family together. So originally I was going to sell Zartan individually, which, by the way, you can see he has his little hydrofoil vehicle, and it's got the the actual bin or whatever. For Zartan, I was originally going to sell him at 50. And you can see he's basically complete. He does not have the little like shin guards or whatever you call them, the little leg guards. Those lost, but you can see he does have the chest piece, which I know gets lost all the time. And you can't really see, but he has the backpack and the mask was in it. So he's missing his gun, but I know the mask gets lost all the time. So I was asking 50. I had Zorana and Xandar, and I was doing them $15 each. They were both complete, and the rubber band was still there. And they were both complete. So that was what I was asking. Well, they didn't sell before lunch. So because they didn't sell before lunch, I started to reduce my prices. And I even told people, if you want to really haggle, hit me up after lunch. Okay. Or bundle. We had a sign actually that said, you can bundle and haggle. But I was telling people that if they wanted better prices, come to me after lunch. And somebody did. And I did sell the Zartan for $40, and then I sold Zorana and Xandar for $10 each. Okay, so I went down. I went down off my original price. And again, I'm really curious what people thought, of these prices. Mike says he also bought the steel. Oh, I'm sorry. That was I already said that. Hey, Bad Bob Productions is in the house. I think that's going to be Rob, right? Rob, you're using the Bad Bob. You're using the Bad Bob logo right now instead of your personal account. So it says it was Voltron. No, it's not Voltron. That's Zartan. He says, "What's up, brother?" So yeah, I appreciate Rob you coming out here. I'll give you $49.99. So what? I'm curious. I've never talked to you, Rob, about whether you were ever into GI Joe, and I'm curious. See, I was trying to bundle them, and if somebody had given me $50 for all of them, I probably would have done it because I was asking 50 for Zartan, and I ended up selling. Well, 50 might have been a little bit low now that I think about it, because I sold Zarana and Xandar. Um, Actually, did I sell them for 10 each, or did I sell them for 10 together? Now I'm wondering about that. So it may have been $50. May have been $50. So, but 49.99, huh? Oh, and you say no. No, oh, what's that about? That's kind of messed up. All right. All right, let's see what the next thing is I got that I actually sold. This is from my brother's collection. It's a really bad picture because I basically had to blow up part of my table picture to even show this. But this is this is a Shogun vehicle. It's a Shogun Veritank, and it wasn't 100% complete. You can't see in this picture. There's these little like underneath. These are like little claws over here. Okay, underneath them are like little holders that keep the claws in place. One of them was broken, but it has missiles. And it's very similar. Like if anybody's familiar with the infamous Cylon Battlestar Galactica Cylon toy that had the firing missiles, and then they had to change it to the missiles that wouldn't actually fire because some kid apparently choked on the missiles and died. This thing had its missiles, and I had the missiles for it. And I was initially asking $20, but it was somebody came after lunch, and I gave him a deal on it for 15. And this is a really nice toy. It's like solid metal. I mean, like the claws and stuff are plastic, like the missiles are plastic, but the toy itself, like most of the toy itself, is like a solid metal. It's a Japanese toy, so I know it's somewhat rare. Do I have any Voltron? Yes, I do, Rob. I actually do have some Voltron toys that I have not sold, as far as I remember. I know I have at least one Voltron toy that I have not sold because I saw it at my mom's place when I was, getting ready for the show, because that's where I got a lot of this stuff. I've been going through my mom's storage. And yes, I do have some Voltron. I actually do have some Voltron. I will probably bring that to the Tucson show, but I'm not sure because I don't have a lot of Voltron and I may want to keep it. I have to decide that. And that's going to be part of my my segment later, the hold or sell, where I talk about these items and my rationale of holding or selling, and ask the audience to give me their opinions. Another item that did sell, this is my brother's. Actually, both of these items sold. You can see the Stewie over here. We sold the Stewie for $1. The batteries didn't work. He's supposed to talk. You can see originally it was $6. We got a lot of attention on Stewie from kids, which I thought was funny. A lot of kids were looking at Stewie, but it was an adult that bought it. And you can't see it very well, but this is the Fisher-Price schoolhouse from like the 70s. It's really sturdy, really well made. Like these flaps up here are metal. I mean, the other parts are plastic, but like the flaps up here are metal because it has like it has actual like magnets, like little magnet letters and stuff. So you can use like a real school. The school actually rings. And I sold this to a female collector, a Fisher Price, and she just like had to have it. And my asking price was $30, and I got it. She was cool with $30. So again, I wonder what people think. I know there are vintage Fisher Price people out there. There are definitely vintage Fisher Price people out there. This is another view of the INT4. Again, I got a lot of comments like, what the heck is this? I had to explain it to people. Yeah, like Kenner did this, where they had these little vehicles that didn't actually appear in Star Wars, but are like inspired by Star Wars. Here's another view. One person I do remember looking at it, and I don't think they actually bought. Well, I know they didn't buy it because this ended up being a bundle. This was part of a bundle, and this was like the last thing I sold, by the way. But it's a bundle, so there's a couple more items, 2 more items that I sold with this. Anybody can guess what the other 2 items might have been. So, somebody was commenting they really liked the fact that the decals were right. And you're going to see another thing I had. The decals are not right. They're mostly there, but they're not right. So the decals are right on this. So I was originally asking my original price that I wanted for this. Let's see if I can find it, was $30. That's what I was going to ask for it. Just and not really based on much because there was another vendor selling this, but they had it in the box, and I didn't see what they were selling it for. But that was what I was going to ask for originally. But I bundled it with my Hawk, and you can see my Hawk. The rubber band is broken, but he is complete. The legs and the rest of the torso, the waist, the backpack. He does have his gun. He does have his helmet. So I was going to try to sell Hawk at $20. But again, I bundled him with this item with the INT4 again from Star Wars Empire Strikes Back Kenner line. And this was finally bundled with this, the infamous AT-AT. So, I didn't have the picture for you. Apologize about that because I have an interior picture where you can see that there are some decals on here. Most of the decals are inside. Okay, that's what the deal is with the AT-AT. So I got this toy when I was really little. I remember I got it for like my birthday, and I was really little because I saw Empire Strikes Back in the theater, but I was really small. In fact, I was terrified because I was at I didn't like loud noises, and I was terrified when I was watching Empire Strikes Back. But I got this toy because I always thought the AT-ATs were really cool, and they gave me this. And as a little kid, I just took the stickers, and most of them just went inside of them. I just opened up the side. You can't see the panel on this side. I just opened it up and put all the panels in there. I made it like a control room. I think that was my idea in my head. So I had no idea where they were supposed to go, and I didn't care. I just put them in there. He does have both side guns. He only had one light gun, and as far as I could tell, it didn't work because I tried to put batteries in him. But the thing that I was telling people was I could tell the batteries were loose, like they were going back and forth, and I really feel like he could have been restored. Now, originally, I was asking for $250 on this. That was my beginning asking price for it. And I did have a Star Wars collector that told me he thought that was about right. But I did not sell it for that. I didn't want to take it back with me. It's one of those things that I really love. It's probably one of the like best things I've ever had in my collection. Like I still have a Technodrome, which not probably, I will be trying to sell in Tucson. So that's like my pinnacle. But this is like right next to it. Well, I have Fortress Maximus too. Anybody who's a Transformers guy, I have Fortress Maximus. So Fortress Maximus, the AT-AT, and the Technodrome are probably like the top tier of my collection. And I've sold one of them. I sold this one. Again, I was asking $250. That's not what I got. Instead, I bundled the AT-AT with Hawk and the INT4. I bundled all three of those items for $110, which I think is a fantastic deal. And I did it to someone who I believe he actually bought the hydrofoil from me. So for that reason, I went ahead and gave him what I think is an absolutely smoking deal. So I'm curious what people think. Again, that was a bundle. So it's the AT-AT, Hawk, and the INT4. I bundled that for $110. That's what I got for it. And again, I was originally asking a lot more for the AT-AT. I know to the right collector, I believe I could have gotten that $250, but that right collector was not there, unfortunately. One thing I noticed was there was a lot of modern Star Wars, and I'm not saying I'm not into any modern Star Wars. In fact, if you look behind me, like over here, this is actually a Funko. This is a Death Trooper Funko. I've got like some other more modern Star Wars here. The last modern Star Wars I got, I even showed on the Retro Rogues live show, was I got the full set of the Mandalorian retro line, mostly because I wanted Gina Carano, and I couldn't get her individually, so I just bought all of them. I bought a set from Entertainment Earth, and I showed that on a previous episode. But I tend to stay away from modern Star Wars. It's just not my thing. Plus, I still got a lot of vintage. I found my Battle Wagon on a future hold or sell. I'm going to show probably my Battle Wagon, but I want to find all my Ewok figures. I don't know where my Ewok figures are. I hope I didn't sell them because it seems really weird that I would sell my Ewok figures without selling the Battle Wagon. So well, I guess the Battle Wagon is kind of top tier too when I think about it. It's kind of right up there with the AT-AT, Fortress Maximus, and the Terradrome, the Technodrome. Is it Technodrome or Terradrome? The Cobra Terradrome or Technodrome? So that's pretty much it for my experience as far as what I sold. Again, I'll just show the table again. My daughter sold a, you can't see it in any of these pictures. My daughter sold like a Ken Barbie doll, and she also sold these Shopkin dolls. Like, if you know what Shopkins are, they're kind of like these little food figures. That's the only way I can describe them. But they have these little dolls, these like little girls, as well. And my daughter did sell them. She was able to sell them, so that was pretty cool. So the next, so now I'm going to go ahead and start to get into hold or sell. So this is a new segment that I'm introducing. It's very much related to the fact that I basically am going to be selling items from my collection. I basically have my own small business now. I had to get the tax license to exhibit at the show in Mesa. Obviously, I'll probably need it for Tucson. So I decided, you know what? I've got a business now, Eric Stuff. And hold or sell is very much also inspired by reserved investments. I'm hoping eventually that to build up this channel and get reserved investments on my show, or I'd love to be on his show sometime too. But reserved investments, if you don't know about it, he basically is a kind of like I would say a financial guy. He's a consultant, okay, in the antiques and collectibles trade. He started out doing vintage video games at a very young age, but he's also got into actual antiques, which, by the way, I have found some antiques at my mom's place. So Eric's stuff. I might try to sell that. I found my dad's Elvis records. I found all sorts of crazy stuff. But reserved investments, one thing he harps about constantly is that the antiques and collectible trade is very fickle. And he constantly, it feels like, is having arguments with the Pokemon collectors and all sorts of other people that don't even collect vintage, as far as I can tell. They collect more modern stuff, and they get into fights with them all the time. Because basically what he likes to say is, you know what? You should just be getting index funds. You should be getting mutual funds. That's a much better investment than especially a lot of toys and things like that. So hold or sell comes from, for me, if you have a stock portfolio and you look at the recommendations, it's going to sell. It's going to say, hold, buy, or sell, right? That's what it's going to say. Anybody who has stocks, you know what I'm talking about. There's going to be a recommendation there. Like if you have E-Trade, they'll have recommendations from different places, and they'll say this particular stock is either a hold, a sell, or a buy. Now, from my perspective, this is stuff I already have, so I'm not going to buy it, right? Obviously, I'm not going to buy. So the question becomes: should we hold it, or should I hold it, or should I sell it? And that's where I'm coming from. And again, so I'm kind of inspired by reserved investments. He's been encouraging a lot of people to actually liquidate their stuff for different things, especially like in video games. So I'm going to go through some things that did not sell. They did not sell at the Arizona Toy Con in Mesa, and I still have them. So this is a sort of generic Lego thing. It's called Best Lock. If I remember right, they sold these in Walgreens all over the place. It's actually pretty nice. This is actually still sealed in the box. We never took it out. And I'll be honest with you. The more I think about it, I'm kind of like, I think I might want to keep this and build this because I just think it would display well. But the biggest problem I have is I don't have a large place. I'm not sure where I would display it. But I saw some kids looking at this, and I was going to only ask $5 for it, and it's sealed in the box. And I never got an adult to say, oh, hey, yeah, you can have that, or how much is it? But I got kids looking at it. There were kids looking at this thing, and but I didn't sell. We have the Dora boombox. I wish I had a better picture where you could see the insides. It does do music, and it does work. My daughter tested it, but it's basically like the sort of toddler Lego type stuff. It does have like a little Dora figure, and a little monkey guy or whatever. My kids used to like Dora. So I don't know if it's complete, but it definitely has a lot of the pieces, and I probably should have a picture with the piece. That did not sell. It did not sell. I can't remember what we were going to ask for it. I was going to let my daughter just decide what she wanted for that. So I don't know what we were going to ask for it. So, again, these are buy or hold. Right now I'm almost leaning towards holding the tank. This was my daughter, so we're going to sell that. We're definitely going to sell that. But I'm curious what people think. If they think, hey, maybe you should hold on to that Dora stuff. That Dora stuff is going to get more valuable, because that's the idea, right? Is like, hey, once my kids are adults, they're going to be wanting this stuff. That's kind of the idea when somebody holds a collectible, right? This is my Star Trek, my Tale of Woe, my JJ Trek. I've got Kirk. He's complete. This is the smaller figures, the 3.5 inch, I think. So I had Kirk in the original packaging. This is JJ Trek from the movies. I've also got the JJ Spock. It's not such a good picture. Incidentally, you can see in this picture, though, that they come with like pieces of the bridge. And I have the bridge set, but I don't have a picture of it. And I had it there. I was going to be asking, I think, $5 for these. That's what I was going to ask. And then after lunch, I was going to do 2 for $5. I never got anybody that was really interested in them. I had like a couple, just a couple of Star Trek guys. And the one, I remember specifically talking to one guy, and he's like, well, I'm into the ships. I'm not even really into the figures. And then I talked to another guy, and he's like, yeah, I'm not into JJ stuff at all. So I think these are going to be a hard sell. But again, I ask you, hold or sell. What do you think? You think the JJ Trek stuff is stuff that needs to be liquidated, or do you think I should just wait until maybe somebody actually appreciates this stuff and wants it? And I also have both of the Neros. I have the larger Nero and the smaller Nero. I'm almost leaning towards holding it because I'm kind of into Nero more than I am into Spock or Kirk, to be honest with you. But again, hold or sell on the Nero. These did not sell. I had them available, but they did not sell. And again, I probably would have sold this for like $10, the two of them together if somebody wanted it. But I didn't get any interest. Nobody wanted JJ Trek. And Mike says, look at a real Star Trek convention and they will sell. Mike, those real Star Trek conventions are really expensive to exhibit at. So I don't think that's going to be happening. I'm going to have to stick to the toy shows. And actually, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to be charging at Tucson. So it's not a done deal for me by any means yet. I don't know how much they're going to be charging for tables, if they're going to be doing booths, but I can tell you from going to Star Trek conventions, because I've been going to them pretty much all my life. They are expensive. They do tend to be expensive. So I don't think that would be feasible for me. Oh, but yeah, that's a good suggestion. Carry it around and sell it out of your bag. That's not a bad suggestion, Mike. The only issue is that actually, every time I go to Vegas, I either fly an Allegiant out of Mesa Gateway, or I fly Frontier out of Sky Harbor. Those are both budget carriers. And if you've flown a budget carrier, you know what I'm talking about. I just do the one carry. They don't even call it a carry-on. I do the one item, the one personal item that you put underneath the chair, because I'm trying to get as cheap as possible. So, unless I drive up there, you know what I mean, or do a different airline, I wouldn't be able to do that, at least at the Vegas show anyway. And I don't really go to any of the other conventions. There used to be Star Trek conventions in Arizona, and I went to a ton of them. In fact, they used to have them at the Arizona State Fairgrounds. There were 3 shows there that I remember. I saw one with Patrick Stewart at the Arizona State Fairground. I saw one with Gates McFadden. And then the best one I saw was DeForest Kelley, Michael Dorn, and Armin Shimmerman. And that was right when Deep Space Nine came out. To me, that was the golden age of Trek. It's not what's going on right now. And but now they don't do any shows. They don't do Star Trek conventions here. That Phoenix Comic-Con has had some good Star Trek guests. So, I mean, I guess in theory, I could go to Phoenix Comic-Con without a table and walk around with this stuff and see if I could get somebody to buy it. But that's a good suggestion, though. I mean, I do like that suggestion, Mike. Carry it around and sell it out of your bag. So we'll see. Because that's a good point. I mean, I've been to these events, and there's a lot of people that definitely appreciate JJ Trek. I have the first movie. I do own the first movie. I have it on Blu-ray. But I think the more I watch it and the more I think about it, it's really about Carl Urban for me. Like, if I had that figure, I probably would hold it. Because I thought he did such a great job. He just channeled DeForest Kelley so well, in my opinion. Or trade. And by the way, that's also something. Maybe I will change the name of this segment, because obviously it doesn't make sense for me to buy something I already have, right? Because I'm trying to use the analogy of stocks and how they recommend stocks. And so, and like I said, in stocks, it's buy, sell, or trade. But maybe I should. Sorry, I went ahead of myself. It's buy, buy, sell, or hold. So maybe I should change the name of the segment to buy, sell, or trade, right? Because I did have I had signs on my table where I said I was willing to trade, and I told people I am willing to do trades. I was looking for trades with cash. I didn't really tell people that, but in my head, that's what I was really looking for. Is like, I'll knock some off the price if you give me something good that I feel like I can actually display. Because as a collector, that's my biggest issue right now is I don't have a large place. I've got a lot of stuff and I've got a lot of junk. And so much of my collection is just sitting in boxes. And a lot of the stuff that I was selling, they were in boxes at my mom's place. So that's even worse, right? They're not even in boxes at my place. They're boxes at my mom's place. And I'm like, I got to get rid of this stuff. It's not fair to her. You know what I mean? So yeah. So so I might change the name of this segment to sell, hold, or trade. Maybe I'll change the name of this segment later on when I do future ones. So this is another item that did not sell. I did have interest in it. There were people that remembered it. This is the Max Steel RoboForce telephone. The phone is in it. It's not just the box. This was my childhood phone that I had in my room. I tested it because I have a landline. I do have a landline in my home, and it works. It still gets a dial tone. And I was asking, my original price, I was asking 70. And then after lunch, I was willing to go down to 50. And I remember I had at least one person that was looking at it like, yeah, for 50, maybe. And they said they would come back later, maybe at the end, and they didn't. So again, hold or sell. And what I'm talking about is, do you think the price of this is going to go up? It's like stock prices. Do you think the price of this is going to go up? Is it something I should be holding on to for a while? Or it's something I need to get rid of and liquidate and find one of those Max Steel collectors, And I remember there was a lot of Max Steel stuff. Like I was telling somebody, I remember the Max Steel robot. I don't know if people remember that. I remember there was an actual Max Steel robot. I always wanted that. That would be like a holy grail item for me to have the actual Max Steel robot. I'm not talking about the little toys from RoboForce. I'm talking about they had an actual functioning robot. And it was so cool, and I wanted it so much. I remember seeing it in the Sears catalog. You said definitely rare, but not much demand. That's a great point, Mike. And actually, Reserved Investments talks about that all the time. The idea that just because something is rare does not mean it's valuable. And that's a great point, especially for what I'm trying to do with this new segment. So yeah, definitely rare, but not much demand. So sometimes the fact of the matter is, just because something is rare doesn't mean that it has value, right? That's kind of what we're getting at here. This was what attracted the most attention to my table. It was the Fisher-Price Castle. You can kind of see in the background, I actually have the box for the accessories. And the accessories are like, it's the king, the queen, the prince, the princess. There's a knight. There's a woodsman. There's a carriage. There's like a cover for these horses. Like one of these horses has like a cover you can put on them. Also, you can kind of see there's a dragon over here. But I put all the stuff that was supposed to be in the box because my brother still had the box. And the funny thing is, my brother used to keep, in fact, they were still in there when I found the box. My brother kept old baseballs in there. So there's all these gross old baseballs that were in there, but I put the accessories back in there. And I'll tell you, the castle was just like universal. Kids would come up to this thing and start playing with it. Okay. Little kids, they would come up immediately and start playing with it. And I got so many older people saying like, oh, I had this. Oh, I used to play with this. I had some people more younger people that were like, my grandparents had this. I remember playing with it. It got so much attention to my table. Yeah, Mike, lots of special features in that castle. Lots of them. Like it's got like secret passages. It's got all sorts of stuff. One guy was telling me he turned it into a G.I. Joe castle. Like he used it for G.I. Joe. You can use this toy for so much stuff. It is an awesome, fantastic toy. And it displays well. And I was telling people that it's like, whatever you're looking for, like if you just want to give this to your kids, they can still play with this. Okay. It's a very durable toy. I played with it as a little kid It's a Fisher Price toy. It's meant to be played with. It is very durable, but it also displays extremely well. And like I said, I got tons of attention. So, but I didn't sell it. So initially, I was asking for $80. Obviously, like I said, that was before lunch. That was all based on independent research I did. I got an offer for $60 before lunch, and I'm kind of thinking, should I have taken it? So it's kind of like that hold or sell. Should I take in the $60? And I actually was willing to go down to 50 at the end, but I couldn't find anybody that wanted it for 50 at the end. But I got an offer for 60. That was before lunch, so I was sticking to my guns at that point for the $80. I honestly feel like $80 is just totally reasonable because it's a great toy, and I have a box. I don't have the box for the castle, but I have the box for all the accessories, and I have all the accessories. This isn't missing anything. Incidentally, one lady wanted to buy the dragon, and I was just like, no, I'm not breaking up the set. I'm going to keep this thing complete. But again, the name of the segment is hold or sale, and hold or sell. I don't want to keep saying sale, but hold or sell. And it's like, what do you think? Should I hold on to this for a while? Do you think it'll just go up in value? I mean, I got so much attention on this piece. And I just feel like it really is one of those few pieces that is still 100% playable if you actually want a toy, but it's also a great display piece if you're just a collector. And Mike says, sell at Tucson, you'll get your $80. Okay. And one of the things is we have more Fisher Price. These are my brothers, Fisher Price. I mean, he kind of gave them to me. I had them in my room, but I feel like, hey, these were originally my brothers. They were hand-me-downs. So I'm like, I gave my brother the money I made for the schoolhouse. It was like, and also for that Shogun tank. I gave that money to my brother. But get your $80 at the Tucson show. I feel like there definitely is a lot of Fisher Price collectors out there. I think they're still there. Like I was talking to one of the organizers of the show where they were saying like Fisher Price used to be a lot bigger, but I got a lot of interest in the Fisher Price. I got a lot of interest in both items. The schoolhouse obviously sold, and that castle was getting so much attention, and just little kids loved it. And I feel like some of these parents, man, you're really cheap, man. I'm just sorry because I've got kids. I'm going to say it. I feel like some of these parents are so darn cheap. It's like, this is a great toy. Why wouldn't you get this for your kid? You know what I mean? But then again, they might think because it's vintage or whatever, because it is collectible, they shouldn't be playing with it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that, especially with like a toddler toy. Those things are meant to be played with. They are very durable. But again, this castle, I'm just going to say again, I feel like it just hits both sides. And, from what I'm hearing, the Fisher Price market is just going down, so it is time to liquidate. So that's another thing with this hold or sell, hold or sell. It's like, that's what I'm hearing. So that's the kind of feedback I want. Again, if you're seeing this on the playback, please comment, please comment and let me know if you're a collector. If you are a Fisher Price collector, what would you pay for this item? You know what I mean? What do you think is a fair price for this item? And because, I want to know. I want to know what you think. Now, there's another couple of items. I've actually got a ton of stuff here, but I'm going to just focus on the stuff that I actually brought, but I didn't want to sell it. And this is sort of the crowned jewels, if you will, of the things that I actually brought. But I had no intention of selling this because once I did some research, I was like, I need to do more research. So I brought these items because I was hoping to find an expert. So this is Stalker, and you might, by looking at him, you get him in there. Let's see. It's not getting a lot of light glare. Apologize. I should have turned my phone off. So this is a Stalker figure, and you might think, oh, it just looks like a normal Stalker figure, right? It's not. This is a Mexican Stalker figure, okay? G.I. Joe. And my research says these things are extremely rare. If I had them in the box, I could get hundreds of dollars for them. That's what my research has been telling me. And I did talk to somebody at the convention who was selling a bunch of G.I. Joe, and he agreed. He said, like, these things can go for like 150 a piece, even loose like this. So as far as I know, this is the official licensed Mexican G.I. Joe. It is not a bootleg. But if it is a bootleg, I feel like there's a whole nother market for the bootlegs too. And I also have rock and roll, and they both have their guns. They both have, he has his helmet, Stalker doesn't have a helmet. But yeah, my research is telling me these are holds right now until I can figure out a good price. That I definitely need to hold on to these, that these are going up. People are just now starting to find out about them, and they're like holy grails. Take them out of the bag. I'm going to be very careful. You asked, so I'm going to do it because I think this is like what everybody would want to see anyway, is they want to see the Mexican GI Joes. Ulysses is in the house. He says hi. By the way, I love your bat icon. In fact, one of the things I didn't bring to the show, but I have off here to the side, I'm going to do just a GI Joe show, I think, for my next hold or sell. I'm just going to do my GI Joe figures that I have. And yeah, you'll appreciate this. I've got a bat. So, and by the way, his panel is in there. It just fell off. He is missing the flamethrower, I think, but I love this. I was thinking about bringing it to the show and selling it. And I was like, you know what? I'm holding this for right now because I think I want to display it, to be honest with you. So, and probably like actually restore it and everything, like glue on the panel. All right. So, yeah, Bats Nation. I like that, Ulysses. Bats Nation for sure. The comic book is what did it for me. I don't know if you read the G.I. Joe comics, but I remember when the bats attacked the G.I. Joe headquarters. That was just awesome to me. I just thought that was so cool. In the cartoons, they were like worthless, but like in the comic book, they were like menacing. You know what I mean? It was like they were going to destroy the G.I. Joe headquarters, So, all right, let's look at rock and roll here. So I'm going to be very careful because, like I said, I believe very strongly that there are those G.I. Joe figures that the rubber band has broken and those where the band will break. And I know his band is not very good. And I'd hate to have him fall apart right here live on the air. So, and I can tell he's very loose. One thing you can tell about these by holding them is the plastic is different. You can tell that it's a different quality. I would say lower quality plastic, very much like those generic army soldiers that you would buy like at a discount store, like at a drugstore or something. If you remember that back in the day, his legs are very loose right now. So I'm very reluctant to be, but I would, if anybody knows, like, what are the telltale signs that I need to look at, like, is there something on his shoe or something like that I can tell that he's actually a licensed figure as opposed to a bootleg, because I do want to, that's why I also need to make more research, is like, I need to know whether this is actually, the licensed Mexican figure that I've done some research on, because I remember him coming in the box. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, I remember him coming in the box, and the Stalker too. There's his weapon, which you can see here. Also, if you're feeling it, if you feel the weapon, you can feel that like it's a lower grade plastic than what we're used to in the United States. You can just feel it. So I know if somebody really knows what they're talking about, they're going to be able to like just touch the figure and be like, yeah, that's it. That's an authentic Mexican G.I. Joe figure. He's got the little stand, for the machine gun. Keeps falling off. I tried to put it back on. It falls off all the time. I have a feeling that I feel like that was always that way. And Mike says, look at the butt and the inner thigh. The inner thigh. Okay, that makes sense. His legs are so loose, I don't want to do that right now. So I'm going to, because I will be so embarrassed if I look at him right now on the air and then he breaks or something like that. So, but I will do that. Thanks, Mike, for the advice. Look at the butt and the inner thigh. Mike, if you know what I'm supposed to look for exactly, that would also be helpful, what I should be looking at. It says, and then Mike says, they will tell you the origin. Okay, the butt and the inner thigh, the origin of manufacturing. Gotcha. And I would assume these were made in Mexico because, again, I mean, like, for instance, I got the bat right here. If I feel the plastic on this, if I take them out, I can feel the difference in the plastic because I'm the one who packaged these. Okay. So I can feel the difference in the quality of the plastic from these, the Mexican figures versus the American figures, which the American figures weren't made in America either, right? I mean, they were made in, probably Japan or something. I've never even kind of taken a look at that of what the original figures were made on. All right, so let's take a look at Stalker. He does have his gun. It's in his hand. I didn't want to take it out because I don't want to like break his thumb or something like that. That's the way I found him. So I'm just keeping him like that. So you can see him there. Again, if you're holding him in your hand, you can feel it. Like if anybody remembers those vintage A-Team figures that were in this scale, because I had a friend that had them, they were that cheap plastic. That's what these feel like. They feel like that cheap. If you know about those A-Team figures, or you know about those generic, GI Joe knockoffs, I'll call them. They had it like drugstores. It feels like that kind of cheaper plastic. You know what I mean? That's what they feel like in my hand. His legs are very loose. I can feel that too. His legs are very, very loose. But again, I'm always concerned about the rubber band breaking right before my eyes. It's going to happen eventually. All these figures are going to have to be restored at some point, because here I got like a Storm Shadow. I'll feature these on another segment because we're over an hour right now, and I like to keep my live streams around an hour, and I'm almost an hour and a half. But this was a good stuff. I think this is what people wanted to see. They wanted to see the Mexican toys. And again, I'm hoping I might just make a clip of the Mexican ones, just like whatever it is, 5 minutes or 6 minutes, whatever I was talking, and just try to get a lot of opinions and a lot of feedback on what people think of these Mexican GI Joes. And again, the telltale signs and all that kind of stuff. So, you said, Ulysses says, just shared the live to the clubhouse and linked it back here. Thank you so much, Ulysses. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I did make a post to the clubhouse. I was accepted. I appreciate the acceptance into the group. And I've got a lot more GI Joe. And my brother has 70s GI Joe. I don't know if you guys cover, the what I call vintage GI Joe, right? So there's vintage GI Joe, which is my era, the 80s stuff, mostly the 3.5 inches. My brother has some of the 12-inch stuff. He has the helicopter. We found that. He has the yellow helicopter, the rescue helicopter for GI Joe. He has the Jeep. This is the original GI Joe. So we've got GI Joe stuff, and we definitely want to take it to Tucson and see if we can get some good prices. So I might feature that on a future. I'm probably going to call it now, sell, hold, or trade. Right. So just to go with the full thing, like the stock, right? Because in the stock, it's, sell, buy, or hold. I'm going to be, sell, buy or trade, since obviously I'm not going to buy something that I already have. Right. So I'm not going to acquire something I already have. Mike mentions that I guess the American GI Joes, I assume you say, some were in China, some other places. That's interesting. Because I always thought, growing up in the 80s, that most of our toys were from Japan, but I guess that's not the case. I guess a lot of it was from China. Lissy said, leave it on. I think I missed where you said that. Leave what on? Sorry about that. So it said, unless displaying, avoid putting things in the hands. They tend to snap easily after all these years. Yes. Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. Yeah, I'm definitely trying to avoid putting things, manipulating things more than I have to. And I do like having these little baggies that I bought, so you can kind of hold them from the top, that kind of a thing, and hopefully preserve all this stuff as much as I can. So yeah. And then Ulysses said he'll go back and rewatch. I do want to encourage folks to comment if they're doing a replay, if they're doing a repeat, if they missed the live show, please still comment about the hold, or the hold or sell, or trade. You know what I mean? I like that. I'm going to take Mike's suggestion on that. So let me know what you think. Let me know of the stuff that I sold, if you thought those prices were good. And like I said, were they good for me? Were they good for the customer? That kind of stuff. Because I'm still trying to price this stuff and figure it out. Ulysses says, I'll be at the Big BAM. Is it Big BAM or Big Barn? Sorry. At the Big Barn Toy Show in Glendale, Arizona. And so will Mike. Hope to see you there. I heard about this and I didn't have any information on it. So I did hear that they were doing a Glendale show. I know that this show, the Arizona Toy Con, as I understand it, was at Glendale previously. In fact, I remember going to the Glendale show before. So is it the same show? Is it a different show? I wasn't clear about that. And also the date, but it's something that I might be able to do, but there's so much going on. Like I was mentioning earlier, there was another show going on. There was another show going on at the Shriners Center the same day. And this weekend there was like a horror fest going on that I took my daughter to. I mean, there were just so many events because it's cooled off in Arizona and now things are exploding. We're going to get all the winter visitors. This is the activity. This is when everybody wants to be in Arizona. So there's just like so much going on. But yeah, if you're posting anything in the group, I'm in the group now, so I can get details there as well. Said looking forward to seeing you in Tucson. I definitely want to be there. Again, I haven't got the information about what the cost for tables is, so I'm not 100% there yet. But I sent a message. I'm on their mailing list, but they sent me stuff for this last show, so I'm like, hey, I want to go. November 12th. Okay, November 12th is the show. Okay, that might be doable. That might definitely be doable. I have to see if my kids want to go. So it's all about the kids on the weekends for me. So because my kids are not here all the time. When they are here, it's usually all about them. That's just the way it is, because I want them to have fun. I want them to do things. Incidentally, my daughter made a lot of money. I gave her a 25% commission for helping me out. What do you guys think of that? I gave her 25%, and I think she made like 100. Well, I shouldn't say exactly how much I made, should I? But she made over $100. Let's put it that way. With the 25% commission that I gave her for my daughter working for me. And I told her, hey, you worked today, and she did. She was there. We were there early. We were there, on time, and so she helped out a lot. And like I said earlier, she sold my transformers while I was away from the table. She sold them herself. Ulysses says China, India, Brazil, USA as main production locations, and then Mexico, Argentina, Venezuela, and France. Wow, that's a lot. I was doing a little bit of research, and I did see about the Indian figures. I thought that was interesting, and the Brazil figures, the figures that they made in India and Brazil specifically for that market. But yeah, I didn't realize that there were so many places where they made G.I. Joe figures. Wow, France, really? I didn't think France really ever made toys. You know what I mean? At least in my lifetime, I've never known the French, for toys, French toys. Wow. That would be an interesting thing to collect, wouldn't it? Really hard, I imagine. But again, like Mike said, just because something is rare, is it valuable? Like, are the French ones really sought after? Well, it's G.I. Joe. It probably, no matter what it's sought after, it reminds me of the Droids figures, which, by the way, I thought it was interesting because they have those reproduction figures now that they came out with in Target for the Droids line. And it kind of confused me because I was like, oh, cool. Like a carded droid figure. I actually have a droid figure somewhere. And it was like, oh, a carded droid figure. I wonder how much they're selling. But then I realized it's the reproduction. It's the Target one. So yeah, who knows, right? But I remember, it's Brazil, right? The infamous droid figure that was one of the last Star Wars figures ever made. It was only made in I believe, Brazil, and it's one of the droid figures, and it's like one of the most sought after figures, especially if you can get it on the card. But at any condition, it's like incredibly sought after because it's not a bootleg. It's a licensed Brazilian droids figure, and it's super, super rare. And Yusuf says it's an actual barn and it's outdoors. It's fun. Oh, so it's not at the Glendale Convention Center like the old show. Okay, gotcha. It's an actual barn. Well, that makes sense. And by the way, I think I did hear about this because I remember hearing about when I was looking for information on the Arizona Toy Con, I seem to remember coming across something like this. So I should be able to find it pretty easily because I remember that popping up where I was like, oh, outdoor show, that kind of a thing. I'd be a little bit worried about an outdoor show, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not like it rains a lot here in Arizona, but it does happen, So I'd be a little bit worried, especially with the stuff that I have, because I obviously don't want my stuff to get messed up. In fact, I'm driving a truck right now, and I told my daughter that if we go to Tucson, I'm going to have to get a camper shell for it for sure, because I had all my stuff in boxes, and I had the best stuff because I have a quad cab. I had my best stuff in the quad, in the cab, but like I had a lot of boxes, in the bed of the truck. And if I go to Tucson, I'm going to need a camper shell or something like that. I want to keep my stuff from getting messed up. It's very cool. Family first. Absolutely. 100% family first. Yeah. But my kids love this stuff, and my kids still collect, they still collect little things here and there. Actually, one thing, you can't really see it, but up here, that's the Hunter from Dark Crystal. It's a Funko action figure. Like I think they did it with the Reaction people, and that we got the whole set together. My daughter and I, because she was really into the new Dark Crystal TV show on Netflix, and we went hunting,
And it was actually Collectors Marketplace where we found most of them, because we were having a terrible time finding them, like at even Walmart or Target, which eventually they had them at Walmart and Target. But we were on a quest to get like the whole set, and the Hunter was for me because I like the Hunter from that show. And Yusa says, absolutely right. Supply meets demand. Some items may be super rare. But if the hype or excitement isn't there, well, then sometimes it will sit. So that's the whole point of this segment. That's really the whole point of this new segment that I'm doing, of the hold or sell. That's really what I'm going for. Is I'm trying to get that idea right. Hold or sell. Like, is this stuff that should be liquidated? Is it at its peak? Is it stuff that I need to get out of here? I need to sell it, or is it stuff I should be holding on to? Because it might go up in value. Maybe it's folks think it's a little bit depressed right now. And Melissa says the show, it's on a farm. Your kids might enjoy it. If you look up the page, you will see photos. It's not windy or dirty. It's a nice setup. The owner of the toy box runs the barn show. Okay, very cool. Very, very cool. I don't know if I've been to the toy box. I feel like I haven't, because I'm not familiar with that place. So, but it sounds like a fun show, and it sounds like that date might definitely be doable. And maybe I'll even take Mike's earlier advice, and I'll have some figures like in the bag if I'm not exhibiting or something like that. Do the little like the sneaky sells off to the side in the parking lot or something like that. We'll see. But that does sound like a good event, and I do definitely want to connect more with the sellers out there, and also the community in general. Obviously, the collectors. Because I am trying to figure out good prices for this stuff. And I kind of, my goal is to kind of be in the middle. I mean, obviously if I can get like the top price, I mean, I would love to, but I definitely kind of want to, I'm looking at trying to price myself more in the middle, And Ulysses says, bring them. There will be Joe Bros and Mike might be interested. Gotcha. Yeah, that would be cool. That was one thing that I was thinking, like at the very end, if I still had all my stuff, that maybe I would just go up to another dealer and say, hey, can you just buy me out? But I ended up selling I ended up selling the stuff I pretty much knew would sell, which is the Star Wars and G.I. Joe stuff. I was like, yeah, that stuff is going to sell. And it was interesting to see the reaction of the Fisher Price too, because like I said, I know there's a market for it. I know there's absolutely a market for that Fisher Price stuff. So I'm going to keep pushing on that as well. Also, if you guys know some of the other groups that you think are good for things like vintage Star Wars, things like Fisher Price, I'm trying to expand my network. So if you guys know of other resources, whether it be on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, I would appreciate it if you sent some information my way to get involved with some of these other groups. I have heard that a lot of these toy groups do have some drama going on. There's some YouTubers I could name that seem to love to be involved with drama and are always involved with drama. But I do want to get into that sphere. And, I'm a big boy. I can take some licks if I have to. And because I just want to get information. And again, I'm really into figuring out more about these Mexican G.I. Joes. And a little story about the Mexican G.I. Joes. The reason I bought them was I didn't have like hardly any of the first wave of G.I. Joe. I think, in fact, the only thing I remember getting for first wave was I had the tank, the Cobra tank, which I believe I sold at a toy show years ago. And, that was like the only, wave one G.I. Joe thing I had. And then I was in Mexico. I used to go like every summer to visit like my cousins and my uncles. And I was in Guadalajara. And as I recall, I was in the airport, and they had this whole stand full of G.I. Joe figures. And of course, to me, it was really weird because the boxes were different. That's something that I really remember, because those boxes that they came in, the figures, it's very different because they didn't come on like the blister cards. And I was just like, oh, these are old G.I. Joe figures that I can't get in the United States. I can buy them here. That was my mindset. And so I got these figures. I wish I had the boxes, man. Wish I had the boxes. If I had the boxes, I know that would be so much more valuable. So And then I did want to close this out with I did buy one thing at the Arizona Toy Con, and this is the one thing that I still collect that's new. This is the one line that I'm supporting. I have quite a nice collection of these now, and they're definitely still acquiring them. I got this for $10. This is Falcon from the Kenner Marvel Legends, as I call it anyway. I call it Kenner Marvel Legends, which of course it's not really Kenner, but I really like this. I like this line. I got this for $10, and I feel like it's one of the lines that's more affordable, especially when you talk about modern. And I love the retro styling. I don't like over articulated figures because I feel like more stuff can break, and I feel like these are going to display really well, whether I want to take them out of the package or not. They can display well like this. I can just put them on like a little peg or a thumbtack. That'll display really well. Or I can break them out and he'll display really well, and he won't get like my GI Joes where he's all loose and all that kind of stuff. So I really like this. This is basically the only modern thing I think that I'm still actively collecting is these Marvel Legends Kenner figures, and I really like them. They obviously remind me very much of the Star Wars figures, the Star Wars Kenner figures, and they feel very much like a what if collection. And I've shown a lot of my collection on the old Retro Rogues live show. If you want to go on my channel, all that stuff is archived, all the stuff's available. You can see most of my collection. I do even have another one handy here. I got this for $5 on clearance. It's a little bit damaged. It's hard to see here, but this a little bit damaged on the blister. I got it at GameStop, and I think it's worth mentioning. It says, by the way, $10.97 clearance. They gave it for me half off, I guess, because it's on clearance and because it's like a little damaged here. I'm trying to get all 4 of them for the Fantastic Four. But what was funny was I got this at Chandler Mall at the GameStop, and Chandler Mall has an FYE, and the FYE was selling these same figures for $25, if you can believe that. I mean, what the heck is that? The GameStop is almost like next door. It's like right across from it. It's almost in the same section. And I got this for $5, and FYE was trying to sell the same figure for $25. It's just ridiculous. I don't know what some of these corporate guys are thinking, because at Target, I believe they're $10 because most of those figures I bought at Target, and I believe they've been $10. All right. So I did go quite a bit over, but I had some questions and stuff. So again, if you see this on the replay, let me know, hold or sell, and let me know what you think about prices. Let me know what you think about researching these things. And I appreciate the comments from Ulysses and from Ulysses and also Mike. And then of course, Rob was here, my partner. And hey, check out our show. It's called The Bad Bob Show. Check it out sometime. And we're actually going to be doing a show on Saturday. We'll be talking about college football. We'll be talking about politics and current events. We'll be talking about if there's some movie news or something like that. We're all over the place with the Bad Bob Show, and we're still kind of figuring out the format. So keep an eye out for that as well. And I really appreciate the comments and all that stuff. And again, if you're seeing this on the replay, please comment, please like, please subscribe. I'll probably make a clip of just the hold or sell a portion of the show, just because I want to really push that segment, and I want to push this little small business basically that I'm doing. So again, from the base god himself, which would be me, I want to thank everybody for commenting and joining the program. And again, if you see the replay, please comment, please like, please subscribe, and let me know what you think of my collection. And next week, probably be more GI Joe, because I got that stuff pretty much ready to go. So probably more GI Joe next week. Probably same Joe channel, same Joe time. All right. How about that? A little cheesy, but hey, what can you do? Again, thanks everybody.